Today, President Trump wears a mask in public for the first time over the weekend. AOC has an explanation for rising crime rates, violent crimes, that is. And the Washington Redskins will be changing their name. It's a crazy Monday. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by BlazeTV contributor Eric July, back in the house. Thanks for being here. And Jaco Booyens, host of the Jaco Booyens Show.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for being here as well. Got a lot to get into. A lot happened over the weekend, which that's just been the status quo since the beginning of the year. If you blink, you're going to miss something. So we've been paying close attention to the news so you don't have to. President Trump wore a mask during a visit to a military hospital on Saturday. Now, this was the very first time that the president has been seen in public with this type of facial covering. He has gotten a lot of flack for it. Who knows why he chose to do it now? But, he has been sending mixed signals up until this point about wearing masks. He acknowledged that they would be appropriate if worn in an indoor setting where people were close together. But he has also accused reporters of wearing them in order to be politically correct and score political points against his administration. Now, a spokesman for the Biden campaign, in case anyone couldn't see this coming, a spokesman for the Biden campaign came out and commented on President Trump's decision to wear a mask over the weekend when visiting Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. He was in a medical setting, right? He did choose to wear a mask. They said, Donald Trump spent months ignoring the advice of medical experts and politicizing wearing a mask, one of the most important things we can do to prevent the spread of the virus. Rather than taking responsibility and leading, he wasted 4 months that Americans have been making sacrifices by stoking divisions and actively discouraging people from taking a very basic step to protect each other. Now, Biden's campaign was not the only one, gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts on this, but Biden's campaign was not the only one to hit Trump, criticize him for wearing the mask because, you can't, when you're Trump, you can't win for losing. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Who didn't see this coming? Here is Nancy Pelosi on President Trump wearing a mask. She says that it is an admission that the mask can stop the spread of the virus. Watch.
Before I let you go, just one word after you saw the president wearing a mask, your reaction.
Well, I'm so glad that he obeyed the rules of the Walter Reed. You can't go see our veterans who are there without wearing a mask. Now he's crossed a bridge. That's an admission that if you're going to see our soldiers, you have to wear a mask. If you're going to be with our children, you have to wear a mask. If we want to stop the spread of the coronavirus, you have to wear a mask. So hopefully, by his example, he will change his attitude, which will be helpful in stopping the spread of the coronavirus.
So good at moving that Overton window, Eric, by consistently repeating, the Democrats consistently repeating that the science shows that wearing the mask stops the spread of the virus, when in reality, I've seen conflicting evidence. More often than not, I've seen more evidence to lead me to believe that it doesn't. Well, but at very best, it's conflicting evidence.
Well, they saw the evidence before and they said the same thing. And this is what is so bizarre to me about this entire situation is that there was a point in time when the earlier breakout started where government officials were saying just that. Don't wear a mask, actually. So for them to act like, well,
healthy people should not wear a mask.
Right, and then acting like, well, for 4 months we've been telling, no, you haven't. You guys weren't saying this until recently, and now you're using this sort of as this platform to make it seem as if, well, we've always said that. That is an objective lie. I actually challenge you guys to look on the platforms like the CNNs of the world and see the amounts of different articles that they would put out saying precisely the opposite, and that the experts said healthy people shouldn't wear masks, highlighting all the studies that shown actually long-term usage for healthy people wearing masks was bad for them. Now, completely changed, and because they can try to take shots at Trump, that's what they're using to get. Now, the bizarre thing about what Pelosi says, though, is that she's acknowledging that those hospitals have those rules and he was obeying them. I don't know anybody, even people that don't wear masks, that's saying like, well, they shouldn't have the right, a hospital or so forth, to have a rule as such. And if you obviously are there, then you have to follow them. That's basic stuff. Like, okay, whatever. The issue is obviously mandating a mask, wearing them in these other particular settings, healthy people, and so forth. But again, admission of what? Like that he follow the rules of the business owner or the hospital or what have you. I feel like we all at some point do that. And if we don't want to follow them, we won't go. We'll leave or go somewhere else. So it's a ridiculous statement for her to make. But I just cannot stand that the left has continued to act as if they have been so consistent on this particular issue and then acting like there is absolutely no doctor, no scientist that disagrees with anything that they say. They might not work for the government, but there are plenty of scientists and plenty of studies, ironically, before March that basically stated the complete opposite of what they're saying. Definitely as it pertains to the cloth mask, which most people are using, as they're basically useless. So for them to act as if, well, all the science agrees and all the scientists agrees with what it is that we're saying. And if you disagree, then you're anti-science. It's just a bunch of baloney.
Yeah.
I'm
Please.
so glad you bring this up. Let's go to their champion. I want to go after their champion,
Please.
Fauci.
I'm so glad you said that
Let's just
because I
go
was
after
about to
the
bring him
champion,
up.
because I don't want to
Thank
play
you.
Little League ball. Let's
Thank
go
you.
after Fauci. Fauci is the biggest hypocrite in this whole thing. The World Health Organization is a joke. A joke. It's a laughing stock. Fauci is the guy. Fauci who said, well, we wear it as a sign that we care. It doesn't really do anything. They started with, it's got to be N95. If it's not that, you're going to die. Now it's a sweater. Heck, it's mama's knit that's got holes in it. Grandma.
Crochet,
Crochet doesn't matter. It's a joke. Fauci is the guy that's teeter-tottering. Burks. The president of the United States didn't admit to anything. He said, hey, our veterans who are sick are important enough for me to show up and take the high ground, put my pride in my pocket, and actually walk by leadership. That's leadership. That's an example. It's not an admission to, masks is going to save the world. That's nonsense. It's preposterous. What he showed there to me is, I care about my soldiers. I care about the wounded warriors. I'm going to go into Walter Reed. You know what? I'm not for masks, but it's not about me. It's not about the mask. It's actually not about COVID. It's about coming and show these guys respect and honor that stood for our nation. That's what it's about. Biggest culprit here, Fauci. A joke. A joke.
Well, I mean, to your point, to both of your points, actually, it's interesting to me how easily the average American, I think, is lulled into a false sense of security because a government doctor has said to them, XYZ is what you need to be doing, because I've had multiple conversations with people who say, oh, well, I'll trust the advice of the CDC and the World Health Organization and Fauci before I'll trust, this random doctor that you linked me to. And I'm like,
what makes them better?
Right. So you're telling me they could have gone to the same medical school, gotten the same exact education, and somehow this person is discredited because he doesn't work for the government? Because if you look at the track record of government, I'm here to tell you should that should be the automatic disqualifier, not the fact that someone does not work for the government. And on top of that, I also heard Bill Nye. Well, I think I'll take the advice of Bill Nye before I listen to this random doctor. I'm like,
yeah, right.
Okay, Bill Nye's not a doctor and he's not a real scientist, but please tell me more.
A little too much time spent in the lab with fumes, right, for that guy. But I want to say this. Let's draw a parallel, all right? Who do you want? Do you want an old, rusty player who hasn't gone through preseason and is not ready? Or do you want a player who's ready to go? Because when last did Fauci see a patient? When last did Anthony Fauci actually work with patients? These other doctors that are in the field, in Dallas, 225 patients a week, testing solutions. This guy's listening to the CDC and the WHO and the science level. When last did he sit face-to-face with a patient? Let's go draw that comparison, and then I go, I definitely don't want to listen to the guy who doesn't see patients. Take me to the guy who actually sees sick people.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're going back and forth, I know, the lawmakers right now on schools. President Trump's administration has obviously put a lot of pressure on the schools to reopen. Some of them are still kind of going back and forth, leaning on the CDC's guidance. President Trump's administration is pushing the CDC to come out with new guidance. Eric, where do you stand on all of this?
This is a cult or religion more so that they have a cling to when it comes to the CDC, the WHO, these sort of government-funded institutions or sponsored institutions, and everything that we do we have to be held hostage by way of whatever it is they say. I saw a doctor post about responding to, I think it was Chuck Woolery he was responding to, and he was like, no, once he said something like, we're still saying the same thing. You guys the economy can reopen once we say. It's like, wait a minute. What says who? Like, who died and made you guys just that, I guess the state did, in that regards, in making them sort of these authoritative figures when they aren't economists for that matter, nor should we ever, for really in the industry, be held hostage because they advise that we do something else, and they're, of course, always going to get their money and funding in that regards. The school thing is very interesting to me because I think it does lead to a larger issue that of sort of state control and government in these institutions. Now, I would love for them to be defunded in its entirety. And by that, I mean a legitimate defunding and letting the parents or the people that are in these general areas that are being taxed to death to pay for these, a lot of them rotten schools. And let's figure it out that way. And then we can let all of these little schools and institutions figure it out on their own if they want to do something, wear masks, don't wear masks or something like that. But unfortunately, we can't even have that conversation because right now we know where the money's going. We know that it's being funneled to all of these schools and they get their marching orders from someone higher above. So we sit up here and have to wait. And unfortunately, people live in these districts where they have to abide by these rules if their kids are going to go there, and it sucks because they virtually have absolutely no say. But I think this is the larger issue when we talk about school, and I believe that it is an outdated system in terms of how it exists right now with us having all of this connectivity. But unfortunately, a lot of parents are going to be held hostage waiting around as far as what's going to happen with these schools, and it's very, very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's so funny. We call these ISDs, right, independent school districts, but the independence is nowhere to be found. I mean, why would you change the name? Why is it called independent school? There's a joke, again, right, because they bamboozle the American public through language. You change the language in a culture, and then you move the culture.
Absolutely.
You go from prostitution to sex work, and all of a sudden it's work. You just change the language, and off we go. Here's the deal, though, something very interesting. President Trump had a panel with some moms, just moms and business owners, and one woman made the most incredible argument. She said, do you understand that the whole world runs on the school calendar?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have children. Vacations, rentals, rates, airline, everything runs on the school calendar. So get us back on a school calendar. And this is also why I stand firmly for choice. School choice, particularly, brother, in your community, right? School choice, because now a mom's got to say, you're cray-cray, I'm going over here. My kid's going over here. Right? I'm going to compete, earn my dollar, earn my child's intellectual capital, earn my child's athletic ability by being sound-minded. Because if you're crazy, we're going somewhere else, right? It has to happen. That thing's got to implode.
Absolutely. It has to. No, it's so important that Americans start looking at education in that manner when we talk about K through 12 or just the education of young folk, and that is why a lot of these districts are so rotten and why a lot of these schools are so rotten. And unfortunately, a lot of kids that are going to these schools are coming out with next to nothing in education because they don't have any choice. They don't have any. For whatever reason, there's a lot of people that are against this.
And the 10-year program.
Right.
Gotta go.
Oh, it's outdated. That long has to go.
That thing. Sorry.
That long has to go.
I can be a bad teacher because I've been here a while.
Yeah. That long. Yeah, that is absolutely outdated. But no, that's the unfortunate thing with this. And a lot of people, their kids, their families are falling victim to this insanely outdated school system or what have you that we do in America, and a lot of folks that are getting paid, including teachers. I know there's a lot of teachers probably going to hate me for it, but the reality is a lot. If y'all actually had to compete in the market, a lot of y'all would be out of jobs. But you are protected by way of your unions. You're protected by way of, we talk about police unions, but we don't want to talk about the teachers unions. But we have those same similar issues. So until we actually address that, because when we talk about Trump or what he's advocating that the schools do, that's sort of the symptom. There's a much larger issue. It's just coming into fruition because of the lockdowns and all of these other things.
But the system is there to funnel money.
That's true.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
That's true.
Always. All right, we've got more coming up, including AOC, our good friend of the program, AOC, who has a reason for the spike in New York City crime. If you have not seen this video, you're going to need to sit down for this one. First, we want to thank our sponsor, NetSuite. So, America, I know you guys are just rearing to get back to work, but in this new economy, this new and this brave new world, you need every advantage to succeed. If you are a small business owner, if you are an entrepreneur, listen up, all right? Smart companies run on NetSuite by Oracle. This is the world's #1 cloud business system. You will have visibility and control over all aspects of your business with NetSuite. I'm talking financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, everything you need all in one place. You know, a lot of times when you use a system that is not NetSuite, you're using multiple systems. You've got your sales system over here, you've got your HR over here, you've got your accounting over here, and they don't integrate and you can't see the bottom line, which means you can't make a profit, all right? And we all know that that's why you're in it. That's why we're all in it, right? You're in it to make a profit. So let NetSuite help you manage every penny with precision. Some of the top companies use NetSuite and they have grown their business by leaps and bounds. You can go there now. It is netsuite.com/Y. That is WHY. You can, let's see, can we, here, yeah, go, tell me what they can get all the way to the bottom. All right, I'll look it up myself. You can get your free guide, 7 actions businesses need to take right now, and schedule your free product tour. That's what I was looking for. I wanted to make sure we were doing the free product tour before I said it. It is netsuite.com/Y. That's WHY. Get your free guide and schedule your free product tour. I mean, unless you don't like free stuff or you don't like making money. If you don't like making money and you don't like free stuff, then I guess you can ignore this. But if you enjoy both of those things, you can go to netsuite.com/Y. That is WHY, netsuite.com/Y. All right, we're going to get to AOC, okay? But Eric just pissed me off over the commercial break. He just pissed me off.
I did.
Come on,
because
it's ad lib.
Yes, absolutely. Gavin Newsom of California is shutting down seemingly the state altogether again. Looks like all the bars are shutting down, the restaurants, pretty much all these indoor facilities, museums, everything are being shut down.
But Eric, I thought the masks worked.
Wineries, yes. I thought the masks worked too. That's what they said as they kept paying attention. Seemed like everybody paid attention to Texas and Florida, and that was it. Though California, they were having their surges and so forth, and they also had their mask mandates, and it seems like those aren't as effective as what they initially preached. And I think that's what we've always said is that, look, it may give you some sort of ideal false sense of security, let's call it that,
right,
but it's not foolproof. And unfortunately, people even set up their language as if, well, if I have the mask and you have the mask, then we just can't contract it and we can't pass it. And that's so anti-scientific. We know this, and we've seen proof of this. Unfortunately, what's happened is that a lot of people that have done these studies have looked at other countries and that maybe wear masks, countries like Asia, which I don't know why they would point to that because the virus came out of Asia. But what they say is, well, these certain pockets didn't get hit as hard and they wear masks and therefore that's why. But it's completely anti-scientific because who's to say that the reason they aren't getting hit hard in terms of, let's say, hospitalization is because of the mask. You can't just say, well, they did it and they don't have, because in the same respects, Sweden's, though they did at points have higher deaths, their death rate is plummeting right now, probably because they're all immune to it now. But the death rate is certainly plummeting. There's no mask mandates. There's no lockdowns. So when you look at those other countries, that they exist. But for whatever reason, people point to like the Japans of the world. And they say, well, Japan didn't get hit that hard, and it's because they wear masks. It's like, that's not generally how you would prove the science.
Eric, you're asking people to be of sound mind and have checks and balances and use math and science and actually prove and verify. That's just too much. You can't do that with 2 brain cells.
That's very true.
That's a great point.
You
probably cannot do that with 2 brain cells.
Completely overloaded.
No, but I mean, I honestly, I can't. It blows my mind every time people use this. Not even just, they don't even point to Japan. They'll just point to, let's say, Texas. Yeah. Now that Texas has implemented their mask mandate, and they'll say, Well, Texas was doing really poor without the mask mandate, and science says that right, because if you look, this is what we were discussing off air. If you look, LA was having their surge, their coronavirus case surge, at the same time that Texas started to, and everyone said, "Oh my God, look at Texas. That's because they're not wearing masks and they just reopened their businesses." I cannot believe that they would be so irresponsible. And it's like, well, California is still shut down at the time. California is still shut down with masks, and they're still surging. But your answer is that we have to wear masks. These don't connect.
They're not even trying to make sense.
No.
Like I said, this is all symbolism for the most part. And they want to feel as if this is why everybody's using it to signal. They just want to feel as if they are doing the right thing, no matter if it's actually sound, no matter if it's actually proof that it works. It's just we're going through the motions. Again, there's so many different reasons as to what could cause a surge per se. And obviously we knew that the deaths were going down, and at the same time, nobody seemed to want to pay attention to that. But there's a multitude of different reasons. I mean, you guys have to consider that we are doing this mass form of testing. We've never done that generally for anything. So I wonder if we all tested for every single virus throughout the year.
Can you imagine we all test everybody for the flu?
Yeah, like
the numbers.
so many people would have it.
Cold.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's like, but we don't do that. But we do it for it now, and then we have a ticker of deaths and confirmed cases. And now everybody just talks about the confirmed cases. Oh, we have 1,500 or 15,000 new cases. I'm like, so what?
And
what does that mean?
Hey, if the deaths don't correlate, that's a good thing. It means the human immune system actually works. You know what grandmas did in my community when we were little? If they heard a kid had chicken pox, they said, play date.
Absolutely.
Play date, let's go over.
Yeah, you can get CPS sent to your house if you do that in this day and age.
Yeah, but we lived in a real country at that point. Get back there here.
Yeah, all right. Moving on to AOC. AOC, speaking of scientists, I mean, is she one? Because I feel like she is one. She's very, very good at spouting facts and using reason and logic to get to her ultimate conclusion. New York City, of course, has experienced a surge in violent crime in recent weeks. A 200% increase in shootings between June 15th and July 2nd of this year. And over just July 4th weekend, 64 people were shot. 11 people died from their gunshot wounds. AOC has an answer, a rationalization for New York City's increased crime. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen.
We have funded more and more. We have shoved more and more and more money every single year into the NYPD, $6 billion. And it has not prevented this uptick in crime. So but let's back up. Why is this uptick in crime happening? Let's really think about it. Do we think this has to do with the fact that there's record unemployment in the United States right now? The fact that people are at a level of economic desperation that we have not seen since the Great Recession? Maybe this has to do with the fact that people aren't paying their rent and are scared to pay their rent. And so they go out and they need to feed their child and they don't have money. So you maybe they're put in a position where they feel like they either need to shoplift some bread or go hungry that night.
So disingenuous.
So it is, because, she almost has you. When she talks about, people are when you shut people up, you lock people down, you take away their means of income.
She never mentions why they're locked down, though.
Exactly. It's your people's policies who have locked people down, but let's not talk about that. But even more so, obviously, when you look at, economic problems, I'm sure that does contribute to violent crimes. But then she just completely loses you at the end when she says, well, they're just shoplifting to get some bread.
And that's not even what the statistics read as far as these people are just not being shot just because, they're trying to feed their kids. And I hate how they gear the conversation to that sort of talking point.
I know.
Because it's so disingenuous,
I know.
man. These people aren't just going out. And when the riots and stuff were breaking out there and the people are going to get clothes and stuff, they're getting clothes to clothe their sick son or daughter. That's not what they're being opportunistic. And a lot of people are like that. And it's just complete bogusness when people throw that out there. And I think what it does is it excuses crime, definitely in this country, and it excuses bad behavior. And I hate that because I believe that personal responsibility and accountability is a thing. Just because you are in a very tough situation does not mean that you have to go shoot someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I hate that we perpetuate this idea. I will absolutely concede the fact that, yes, there tends to be a correlation between poverty as well as violence and violent crime. I will concede that all day long. But to act as if that has to be the case, and then she's wording it as if, well, they're only doing that to get bread or because they don't have money to pay for. No. That's completely dishonest. We know that not every single crime, violent crime, these acts of aggression, they do not just happen because someone's trying to get bread. It's not the Walmart or what have you that they're going to try to steal from. They're shooting their neighbors. They're shooting people that they're banging against. They're doing it's bad. It's actual legitimate bad behavior. And I will actually, and we've talked about this on the show, I believe that the lockdowns do have something to do with that. Because you force people into this quarantine efforts, they don't work, they have absolutely nothing else to do. On top of that, they do, it's true that they can't make money, but more so they're not even occupied doing other things because it's illegal for them to do so.
Right.
So a lot of people definitely young folk, unfortunately, go down that rabbit hole and getting in and doing all of this bad behavior. So if you are going to credit at any point in time people are months behind on their rent, blame yourselves for that because that's y'all's fault that's the case. Not anybody's fault other than the people that have forced people into hiding, forcing people to lock down, forcing people basically, no matter how healthy they are, no matter what health status that they're in, you force people to be quarantined in their homes, and that's why they're not working. But at no point in time did she ever say that.
Yeah, Yaku, and it's not just that it's this, these leaders who have forced them into quarantine. It's the same leaders who have had these same existing issues in these Democrat-controlled cities for decades and decades and decades, and now somehow it's the fault of the police because we give too much money to the police. Nowhere is there the correlation of the fact that it's Democrats who run the city.
It's never leadership that Chicago looks like it looks it's COVID. No, it's been like that forever. But listen, perception is reality. So when there's a person that has a propensity to crime, and now you give him the perception that there's no law and order, crime's gonna run rampant, okay? Yeah. Most of those folks probably have been petty thieves all along.
True.
Have been stealing from their neighbors or their mama's wallet or their grandma's purse. But let's help Miss Cortez real quick, okay?
She needs all the help she can get.
Let's help Miss Cortez real quick. Let's talk de Blasio, okay, for a second, and Cuomo. December 31st at midnight, you enacted your no bail law, and you put thousands of criminals onto the New York street, out of jail. Maybe some of them are committing crimes. You take pedophiles and abusers, and you could beat up an old age person, you can armed robbery, no bail. Maybe some of those folks who should be behind bars in New York City, who should be policed, are the ones running in your streets, who are now incentivized. Look, I was in jail, they let me out. Because they're afraid of a virus. Maybe we can consider that, not the bread line, okay? And the coronavirus and your politicians that has historically plundered and, can almost say a bad word, hurt your city in New York City, historically, okay? It's not the NYPD's fault, and you've hamstrung the NYPD with corrupt commissioners, corrupt police chiefs in that city, historically, right? So now let's go back to policy.
Yeah.
Your leaders put criminals on the street, period.
And when you combine that with the fact that these people can't protect themselves, definitely in those areas, the New York cities of the world,
the gun laws,
make it nearly impossible for them to protect themselves and their businesses. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. All right, we've got more coming up, including the Washington Redskins. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
Can't say that.
I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hope that they censored this by the time that this airs. I know that's a very offensive thing to say, but that team who shall not be named is going to change their name to a team name that you can name. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So those of you who don't know, maybe you just started watching this show, I had some really bad back pain several years ago. I got in a car accident through no fault of my own, by the way. And I got a bunch of herniated and protruding discs in my spine. The doctors wanted me to take injections. And I was like, Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. I know there's another way. Well, there is. It's called Omega XL. So if you have a bunch of maybe neck pain, shoulder pain, arthritis, pain in your knees, whatever pain you have, usually the underlying cause is inflammation. All right. And you're maybe masking it with like Tylenol or a cream that you rub on and it feels okay for 5 minutes. But you're not defeating the actual inflammation. And when you don't do that, it can cause permanent damage. Omega XL actually attacks the inflammation that is causing your pain. And this is backed by 35 years of clinical research, by the way. So they know what they're doing. And it's a very teeny tiny little capsule that is filled with like the most concentrated fish oil, fatty acid combination from New Zealand. And I just love it. I say this almost every time, but I love it on the bottle. It says, from the pristine waters of New Zealand, which I can totally, can't you just picture it?
The waters are pristine.
I know, the pristine waters of New Zealand. They know what they're doing in New Zealand, all right, when it comes to defeating inflammation.
A lot of things, you'll see.
Well, a lot of things, but then a lot of not things, according to another story that I have. But let's get you started. If you are in pain, you don't have to live that way, all right? Go to Omega XL. You can order a bottle and get a second bottle for free right now. All you have to do is go to omegaxl.com/news. That is omegaxl.com/news. Back in a minute. All right, the Washington Redskins plan to officially announce a new name change. Now, their press release said, on July 3rd, we announced the commencement of a thorough review of the team's name. That review has begun in earnest. As part of this process, we want to keep our sponsors, fans, and community apprised of our thinking as we go forward. Today, we are announcing we will be retiring the Redskins name and logo upon completion of this review. Blah, blah, blah. They're working to develop a new name and a new logo that will enhance the standing of our proud, tradition-rich franchise and inspire our sponsors, fans, and community for the next 100 years. So proud that they're going to change the name, Eric, because Native Americans were very the Native Americans weren't actually offended by it.
No, generally they're not. Uses a bunch of white leftists that are being offended on their behalf. Yeah. Before this is all said and done with, I think all we're going to have is white logos, which is interesting to me. We have Vikings. We got all of these different, Fighting Irish. You can even have that in Notre Dame. You have all of these different, somehow that's not offensive by any means, but things that seem to have like these native connotations, if you will. They
historical,
are
one might say.
Right. That a lot of natives have taken pride in even some cases. But they're taking them down because they're offensive. I don't know anybody that's the only thing I'm offensive at, that is the fact that they are, of course, in our division. And I call them the Deadskins, and they suck. You know what I mean? Aside from that, the logo is the last thing that I'm worried about when it comes to this. And it's just a case of they're making their rounds now. It's become like sort of socially acceptable to go around the table and look for things that they're being offended at. As you can see, I have my Texas Rangers hat on because someone over at the Washington Post, if I'm not mistaken, thought that we should retire the Texas Rangers because something about white supremacy or history or something like that. People, and of course the person that wrote it, her name was Karen. Like that was literally her name. Her first name is Karen. Not even making that up. But on a serious note, people are going out of their way to be offended at things that generally nobody was offended at before. And it's kind of odd because I think all that's going to be left standing are a bunch of white, because they can have their logos. White folks can have Vikings. It's fine. That's on the table. Black folks can't have nothing. The natives can't even have anything. I wonder what all of these Cleveland Indians, Chicago Blackhawks. I wonder if all of those are coming down as well as these white leftists go make their rounds and to say, oh, that's offensive to natives, and don't worry, natives, I got you. It's offensive on my behalf. And by the way, July, for those that don't know, that's my real last name, and it is a Creek name. And my family members, I don't know of them being offended.
Wow.
Come on,
Yaku, I mean, what better way to show true white supremacy than for a bunch of white people to tell minorities that I'm going to fight on your behalf. You may not have a problem with it. You may not see that there's a problem with it, but I'm much better than you, so I'm going to tell you that there's a problem with it.
But it actually falls 100% in line with the leftist movement. You can't think for yourself, so we'll do it for you. You don't know what's good for yourself. Right. The natives don't know what's good for themselves, so we'll think for them. They should storm the Hill. They should storm the Hill. I'm telling you. If we could just get the natives to rally and go, okay, now you poked the bear. We're going to come out of the Black Hills and, the Sioux and the Assiniboine tribe, and we're going to storm the Hill. That's just the biggest nonsense. But again, it's a feel-good theory. We're going to make ourselves feel good. We're going to wear our mask. We're saving lives. True. Saving lives.
Oh, of course.
We're going to spare you. Don't worry. Right? We're actually harming the family. We're actually harming the fans. We're costing the franchise billions of dollars. NFL should be ashamed of themselves for telling that franchise, if you don't change your name, you don't get primetime television. Okay, that's disgusting. That's meddling, by the way, because that's a private owner of a business. That's meddling. You want to meddling? That's all the left does, is they meddle in other people's business. It's godless. And if I may, I'm just going to go there. Not Yaku. I'm just throwing cups against her. Not Yaku, but the Word of God says, if you think you've offended somebody or you've taken offense, settle your heart and settle with your brother before you go to bed, okay? We're offended at everything. We need to look at ourselves and stop taking offense. This is nonsense. Let those who could possibly actually take offense speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we get leaders from the Native American community that all got tribal council and say, you guys, here's a microphone. Do you want us to change the name? Because they're going to say, no, we helped make the logo. If you remove this, now we're completely misrepresented. We're not represented at all.
Oh, yeah, true. That's true.
Or is that actually the ploy?
Yeah. That's
One.
Very great points from both members of the panel here. All right, we've got more coming up. We'll be back. Now, this next story, I want to be clear, does not represent Omega XL, our sponsor. They get their fatty acid combination from the pristine waters of New Zealand, have nothing to do with the craziness that is going on in other parts of New Zealand. So the good news is that New Zealand just announced that they hit 0 active coronavirus cases. So you're thinking, okay, things must be going really great in New Zealand. And they said it is now likely, well above a 95% chance, that they have completely eliminated the virus. However, a leading epidemiologist in New Zealand says that thousands of people will be quarantined in isolation facilities for months and possibly years into the future. They said that sensible risk management says when a mistake happens, you figure out what went wrong and you improve the system. And this is so crazy that there are actually people breaking out of the facilities that are telling their stories. I mean, legitimately, I'm reading the latest escapee. A person in their 60s broke the window of the hotel they were staying at and climbed out of the building. They then scaled the fence and began to knock on the doors of neighboring homes. Their escape is the 4th since last Saturday, when a woman scaled 2 fences to escape from a different hotel. She was out of isolation for more than an hour. I'm like, what the hell is
the
going on?
Concentration camp.
It is.
That's what that is. That's a
For
concentration
months,
camp.
possibly years, because they had a virus? It's, I
Talk
can't.
population control, and that's concentration camp there.
That 60-year-old is pretty limber.
Come on.
I know, right?
Climbing.
Desperate people can do desperate
buddy.
things.
Once that adrenaline gets pumping,
You find a way.
You'd be surprised what all you can do. That's insane.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if. Well, I think we got guns, so I don't know. I don't know how they handle that.
Oh, you know, AOC and Ilhan Omar saying, "Oh, that's a
great idea, right? That's fantastic."
Hey, Joe, write that into your bill that you stole from the president. Add that in there. Some concentration camps.
Oh my God! They won't call them concentration camps.
No, of course not.
Of course, something else. Butter it up. It'll have flowers.
Healing center.
I like healing center.
I'm gonna call it a healing
Exactly
center.
what they'll call it.
You just gave them an idea. I think that's something.
You're going to call it a healing center. If they want to send you to a healing center, run for the hills.
Don't go. Do not go. Oh my God. I can't fathom.
That's insane.
And that's why, people, especially the left, they take for granted all of the freedoms that we have, or that we're supposed to have in this country. But it's stories like this that really, if you're a reasonable person, you look at it and go, thank God we live somewhere where we're supposed to have the freedom.
Second Amendment.
For that to not happen. Although I will say, with this whole coronavirus pandemic, it wouldn't shock me if something crazy like that happened. You're seeing in different counties across the country popping up where, you could spend up to a year in jail if you violate a mask mandate.
Same.
I mean,
Which
you
is
see
effectively
that.
the same thing. By the way, putting someone in just effectively the same exact thing if you're going to force people into hiding.
It is.
You're basically putting them in essential jail, because you called it a hotel, that's fine, whatever, but essentially a jail.
But at the same time, we're releasing inmates because they may get COVID.
Backwards thinking. It doesn't have to make sense, though, right? We're just going through the emotion. They try to strike fear into people when it comes to these orders and whatnot. But I encourage Americans to pay attention to stuff like that. There's little things that are popping up around different countries. Read some kind of odd things happening potentially in Australia as well.
Wow.
And it's like, we don't seem to value freedom as much as other people, definitely when folks are scared. When people go scared, and the government does a great job in striking fear in the individuals. And once people are scared, they say have all the freedoms, have them all, do everything you can to keep us safe, but you can have absolutely all of our freedoms because it's for the greater good. Yeah. And it's a very dangerous precedent to set. Yep. And it leads to things like that. We don't seem to value freedom. And this is like, even if it's something people like, well, it's just a mask. I say that's actually why we should be fighting against it, because it is just a mask.
But that's how the slippery slope.
Bingo. And it's a real thing.
Our men and women fight for what? For freedom. They die for freedom, not for safety. For freedom. You do not give up freedom for nothing. I got to give a shout out, just if I can quick, to my native South Africa. One of the worst lockdowns all over the world. Arrested people in their homes, on their properties for smoking cigarettes. Made a rap song. Okay. Because they would share, weed and blunts and go, oh, you're transmitting the virus. So if you have cigarettes, you're a smoker in South Africa, they just said, can't smoke. We're coming into your home and arrest you. So America, think about that for a minute.
That's insane.
Wow.
Because that's where this goes. That's where this thing goes. This whole statues coming down. South Africa took our statues, took our history, changed our national flag, changed our national anthem. This is where that's the track the left is on. Yeah.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the third person who allegedly escaped this isolation in New Zealand. He apparently escaped from the hotel where he was being kept and immediately entered a nearby liquor store and bought a 4-pack of beer and a bottle of Pinot Noir. If that's not me busting out of the hospital after I have my baby, I don't know what is. All right, back in a minute.
Sarah out of the asylum.
That's my first stop. All right, Friday's poll: should local or federal government have the ability to mandate mask wearing? 87% of you said no. Neither local nor federal government should have the ability, to mandate mask wearing. But still, almost 13% of you said yes. I have to wonder, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say these are not people who watch the show. These are like people who saw the poll being retweeted. I would like to believe that if we've taught you anything here at the News and Why It Matters, it is that local nor federal government should have the ability, neither one, to mandate mask wearing. Today's poll: is AOC, here are your options, is AOC smart and dangerous, stupid and dangerous, smart and harmless, or stupid and harmless? I am going to go with stupid and dangerous. I don't know how it's not 100% that's the answer. Eric, what do you think?
That's what I'm going with, stupid and dangerous. She has a loyal following, following of youngsters, and she's my age, by the way. It kind of me looking at my generation. Absolutely. I'm going with stupid and very harmful, because those people get in positions of power and they get platforms to say some of the crazy things that she's been saying since she's been in office.
Yeah, it's insane how crazy her cult following is, and how
it's growing.
Yeah, and they will just defend her to the ends of the earth.
That's what it is.
To the ends of the earth. And she could be saying the dumbest thing in the world. And they're like, well, she's a sitting congresswoman. What do you don't respect
She could say
Drano
is the best cough syrup, and they'd go, that's a good idea.
It's incredible.
I agree with you. Very, very, very dangerous. Should be taken seriously, not for her intellect or Theodore, the one brain cell that's floating up there, but more for the fact that she's got a cult following. But not a lot going on up there.
Not a lot going on up there. Let us know what you think. I'm crossing my fingers for 100%. Stupid and dangerous. Crossing my fingers. Don't let me down, people. All right, you can go to The Blaze's Twitter. That is, of course, at The Blaze. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. We'll see y'all tomorrow.